Hello, gorgeous ones. How's your day going? How's your life going? Hopefully everything's hunky-dory in your world, and if it is, I'm really glad for you, and believe me, I'm more than just a little bit envious of that. What I wouldn't give right now for everything to be simple and sorted in my world. Oh my God. But maybe you are a bit like me, juggling a lot of balls at any one time, some of which you can't put down, and you're constantly worried that one of them is going to drop and you won't be able to catch it. And maybe the implications of that are scary. Maybe they're potentially damaging, and that's more than enough to keep you awake at night or in a constant state of overwhelm. If that is where you're at, I get it. At the moment, my life is being lived in a perpetual bubble of stress because there's things going on in my life right now that I have no control over. At least not if I want life to work out the way I'm planning it for me and my family. We're trying to make some big life changes for the good of our physical and mental health, and what we're trying to do involves a lot of convoluted and frustrating bureaucracy. With a massive commitment already made to the process, we're working as hard as we can to see it through, but it is stressful, and it all too often threatens to get in the way of everything else I have to do. I try to stay as upbeat and positive as I can, and that usually works because I am inherently an optimist who believes that things will work out as they're supposed to, when they're supposed to. And I believe that we wouldn't have come this far through the process we're involved in if we weren't supposed to make it work. I believe in universal energies and all that stuff, and some folks think that's bonkers, but I don't happen to think so, and each to their own, right? But I have to be honest, there are some days when I just feel like everything's against me. Days when I feel that there isn't a soul in the world that I can talk to about what's dragging me down and threatening to force me under. Days when I'm all too aware that there are people out there who are doing stuff in their own self-interest, who don't give a monkey's what the impact of that is on anybody else, including the people they're supposed to care about. In too many areas of my life, I feel that right now. I understand it, and I'm not condemning anyone for it, because everyone has to do what they feel they have to do for the reasons that make sense to them, that they can be comfortable with. But it doesn't help me to feel less stressed about what I can't control because of it. But luckily, I don't have too many of those difficult days. There are a lot of people out there who have more of those days than not, and I'm not in that basket. And I hope you're not either. Of course, not every day's a good one, and that's true for most of us, isn't it? Life's no bed of roses, and we have to have the shit stuff going on sometimes to give us the right perspective on appreciating the good stuff. That is the reality of universal balance, the yin-yang. No troughs mean no peaks either, and who wants to live a flatline life? Occasionally, I do think I'd gnaw my own arm off for a simple, stress-free, flatline life, but who am I kidding, really? I appreciate the joys in my life, and appreciating that the shit stuff is partly what enables me to feel those joys. It's all part of the great sandwich of life. Sometimes the fillings are awesome, and sometimes the fillings are crap. And the problem of a shit sandwich, though, is that while most of us do have to eat one occasionally, what happens if you feel that that's all you're getting? What do you do if you feel overwhelmed by the stuff that keeps threatening to suck you under? How do you reduce the pressure? We can take all the appropriate actions to try and mitigate the stress, and some of those are quite considered and often quite serious actions, like, I don't know, changing god-awful jobs or leaving difficult or nasty relationships, making big commitments health-wise, etc. Those are all constructive and important things to be doing, but they are very big commitments indeed. And for some women, that can sometimes feel like just too big to consider while everything else is going on. I've heard a lot of women in that situation say, I'll do X, Y, Z after this has been resolved, or let's see how that problem works out and then I'll consider the changes. And that all makes perfect sense while they're telling themselves those things and a host of other stuff besides, and they're not going to feel like excuses. They are going to feel like bona fide reasons for delaying making significant change. And I get it. I've been there myself, so I'm not going to judge anyone else for it. Remember, in all of this, I'm never going to judge anyone on anything they do or don't do, or don't say or don't do. It's your life and you have the right to live it your way. So if it's going to take time, mental preparation, or changes in actual physical circumstances for a woman to make a significant change, which sometimes can be terrifying, and believe me, I get that too. There are a few things that can blow the lid off the pressure in the short term. I know you're probably rolling your eyes at me now and thinking, God, how does a temporary reprieve help when I'm buckled by stress? But believe me, give it a chance because it will. Any relief of pressure, no matter how small, does help. Even a 2-minute belly laugh at something stupid on the telly. And that brings me, finally, in my meanderings, to the point of this podcast. Humour. It is a great thing, laughter, and whoever it was that originally coined the phrase, laughter is the best medicine, well, they weren't kidding. It makes a massive difference to how your brain functions. Laughter literally alters brain chemical composition. During a bout of the giggles, the brain releases an avalanche of endorphins, and they're the best stress busters ever, along with working as an analgesic to reduce pain and the inflammation that causes it. Laughter also strengthens the immune system, and we could all use more of that, couldn't we, as life grabs hold of us and tries to drag us down the path of ill health. We need to be as robust as we can be as older women in society to stay solid in a world where it sometimes feels like everything we see and hear about has the capacity to drag us down. And laughter is a very big part of remaining robust. For me, laughter is often a bit of a challenge. I'm really not very normal in the sense of humour stakes. I think I was in a different queue when that particular endowment was being doled out. I'm slightly cursed, actually, at having a very refined sense of humour, where the things that most people laugh at don't even leave a dent on me. But I have been blessed in a slightly different way, with a very keen sense of the ridiculous. And when I get going with the giggles over something I see or hear about that literally defies all sensibility, I can erupt like Vesuvius, and there's no stopping me until I literally run out of steam. I laugh at myself a lot, because I can be quite ridiculous without even realizing it. And I often end up laughing at other people's reactions to what I do. I'll give you an example. One time years ago when I ran a different business, I was sitting at the traffic lights in my sign-written car. I'd had a shit day, and so I decided to let off a bit of steam before I got home and bared my teeth at my poor husband. Believe me, car karaoke, it's brilliant for smashing stress, especially if you let rip without caring, or in my case, even being aware of who can see or hear you. Anyway, there I was, and I had the windows partway down, and an old song by the Cars was on the radio. Anyone remember them? The Cars? Anyway, there it was. All I Want Is You. So what was I doing? Bouncing around in my seat and singing at the top of my voice as I tried to give Rick Ocasek a run for his vocal money. I sound like two cats being stapled together when I sing, so it wouldn't have been great for anyone in the vicinity who valued the use of their eardrums, I guess. And I think there might have even been a little head rolling and some hand movements involved and some da-da-das and the instrumental bits. But I was given it heaps, and when I happened to glance across to the next lane, I saw two young women who had tears of laughter streaming down their faces. They were literally doubled up at me. Yes, at me. So quick nanosecond choice then between cringing with humiliation or owning it and giving them a wink. So I put the big girl pants on and winked. So how bloody funny was that? I ended up laughing at their reaction to my own ridiculousness that lasted until I pulled into my own driveway half an hour later, by which time the people in the cars at the other sets of traffic lights who saw me laughing like a hyena at nothing they could see probably labelled me bonkers. The stress of the day had completely dissolved. There was another round of giggles when I described it to my husband what had happened, and the feel-good factor lasted all night. The next day, I had a message on my answer phone at the office from the lady at the lights, unquote, thanking me for making her and her friend's day with my murderous rendition of All I Want Is You. Knowing that I'd made someone's day, well, that made mine. And occasionally when I need a giggle, I think back to previous things that have happened in my life that made me convulse with laughter at the time. Like the time when I was 17 and I was a passenger in my boyfriend's car in the front seat, and I had a milkshake I hadn't finished. Naughty girl. I went to throw it out of his window because, A, I was a little buggy teenager who didn't give a toss about the environment back then, and B, I couldn't be bothered winding my own window down to throw it out of my own side. Lazy and ignorant, typical teen. What happened? Well, the wind blew the container back into the car, blew the lid off it, and it splattered all over him. And I do mean all over him. That was funny enough, but the look on his face has stayed with me forever. More than 40 years after that happened, I can still see his horrified, incredulous face whenever I think about that incident, and it still makes me laugh. Seems to be a thing, doesn't it? Me and cars. Like the time I was waiting for another boyfriend years later to pick me up in town. Along came the charcoal Peugeot 205 GTI and it pulled up beside me at the lights, and I jumped into it and quickly realised that it wasn't my boyfriend and it wasn't his car. Oops, I said cheerfully as I jumped straight back out again, twice as fast. Wrong GTI. He was horrified and I was mortified. But what can you do except laugh? And that's the thing. Our lives are full of random pockets of silliness. And if we can make the choice to find whatever humour we can in that silliness, it changes the way we think about everything else. Okay, it can be a bit of a stretch to look for humour when things aren't going well. I do know that. Believe me, there are days in this life where it's all too easy for me to believe that nothing under the sun will make me laugh. But I know deep down that I'm wrong about that. And I really do think the key is in the trying. And the really important part about trying is giving ourselves permission to laugh, permission to lighten up, permission to find and enjoy the things in our lives that bring a smile to our faces. Do you remember when you were a girl and you and a friend had the giggles and neither of you could stop the other, and the more you both tried to stop, the harder it got? Well, for me, it would get to the point where we were both nearly wetting ourselves and we still couldn't stop. Well, let me tell you, those giggling Gerties are still alive and well inside all of us, and it's okay to let them out. Unleash the laughter whichever way you can. If it's too hard to laugh alone, find someone to laugh with. Get into a car together and do the car karaoke thing with songs that make you feel good. I guarantee that by the end of that, you'll be helpless with laughter. Helpless. And how good will that feel? Believe me when I say from experience that cars are a great source of amusement. It's not so much the cars themselves, it's what you do in them. And I'm sure you can think of things you've done in cars that you might not be so keen to remember or talk about. And believe me, I've been there too. But it's all part of what made us who we are, isn't it? But please, 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 darling, don't for one single second feel bad or guilty or impatient with yourself for laughing. Nowadays, it's true and quite sad that laughter is a critical component of well-being that most of us are finding hard to tap into. Life keeps getting in the way. We get stressed, we get busy, and sometimes, especially when serious things are demanding our attention every minute of every day, we can feel guilty for feeling good. Well, let me tell you that is nonsense. That is a crock of SH1T. It is self-imposed nonsense, and in that sense, there's a choice to change it and shake things up a bit, preferably your shoulders with a jolly good laugh. But no matter what's going on in your life that you might not be able to control, you do have control over how you react to it. That might be sitting in the car singing your heart out to a song that makes you happy. And if anyone was to judge you, who the hell cares? If they write you off as crazy, personally, I think that's worth laughing at too, because you know you're not. And how much does it matter really that someone who'll forget you in 5 minutes and probably never see you again anyway thinks you're a half a walnut short of a full shell? And how wonderful to be seen as mad. To be seen as anything is a bonus in a society that typically fails to see us, right? So do all of the things that work, and I do mean all of them. Exercise, breathe deeply, eat good food, stay hydrated, take the vitamins, talk about things that matter with people who understand, and above all, find a way to laugh. Because our bodies, as little walking, talking miracles of science, have the inbuilt cure for cortisol overload. Those lovely, juicy endorphins that are snoring quietly in a dark, cozy corner of your brain are just waiting to be woken up so they can help you feel better, but they might need a trigger to get going. But once you let them loose, I guarantee the effects will be amazing. With the ability for enjoyment comes the ability to cope better with what life hurls at us 24/7. And remember that while we don't always get to choose what happens or doesn't, we always have a choice about how to react to that. So figure out how to laugh and let them think what they like. Okay. I'll talk to you soon.